This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, making their way to the microphones, it's Jack. It's Kenny. It's the Rock and Roll Up Podcast.
Hello, mates. You've caught me doing my New Year's resolution to eat more chicken on camera.
Oh, look at that. Look at that technique he's got going on there. Well, my name's Jack.
Right.
Yeah, that is... don't speak with your mouth full. That's the first rule of Rock and Roll Up Podcast.
Number one.
Unless it's full of great comedy pop culture quips. Now he hasn't... now his mouth is emptied. Please, can you introduce yourself? Okay, he's gone for another one. That's Kenny there with a mouthful of birds. We're from Rock and Roll Up. It's a comedy pop culture podcast, and this is part 2 of our wrap-up of the year 2020, a year that is at least 16 days past. That's right. We're in the new year.
It is at least 16 days past.
Yeah.
Yes, 2020. What a year of shit.
Yeah, we did a brief wrap-up of it last time. COVID and Orange Man Bad. That was about all that I know of 2020.
Yeah.
Let's do a very quick recap from last time on Rock and Roll Up. Oh, film TV was good. Was all right.
Filming. What was your favourite film and TV? I think I can remember my. I remember mine. So mine was The Five Bloods, Spike Lee, my favourite film of the year. My favourite TV was the 3rd series of Dark.
Nice. My favourite film was Parasite. There was some debate. Was Parasite in 1917 released in 2020? Yes, it was. Don't at me. And my favourite TV was What We Do in the Shadows S2. That stands for series or season. If you're one of our American friends, season 2. 2 stands for the 2nd season.
Yeah.
Or series if you're from Europe.
Yes. Has anything changed? Have you watched anything from 2020? Have you seen other films? Have you had any thoughts quickly before we move on? I've got 2 thoughts on my picks.
Hold the horses. Kenny's got 2 thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. These are going to be great thoughts. Have I watched anything from 2020 subsequently? I think possibly was the first season of Ghosts out in 2020 or 2019. No, that does count because season 2 was out in 2020. I'm currently watching BBC family sitcom Ghosts, starring several cast members from Stath Lets Flats, comedy that I've championed on the show before, made by the team behind the live-action Horrible Histories show, if you remember that, which has some very funny outtakes on the YouTube. It's about a young couple that move into a house that is haunted by ghosts. She can see them. Hilarity ensues. It's very much a farce, what you'd expect from a very safe family comedy, but really nice ensemble cast. But a lot of people in there you'd recognise from Gavin and Stacey, Staff, Simon Farnaby, who wrote Paddington. Lots of good people in there. Really fun, cheeky, easy to watch comedy. And I'm on season 2, which did come out in 2020. So probably would have made my list for good comedies in 2020.
Nice.
Thank you and good night. What about you, mate? Give me 2 of your thoughts that you've promised the listeners.
I'm going to give you at least 2 of my thoughts.
At least? Wow.
At least the 16th day into the new year.
Yeah, at least.
I put Tenet as my worst film. It was more because of the hype in which it achieved from myself and many others. However,
you just didn't get it, mate. That's your problem.
Yeah, it's not clever enough.
You just didn't get it.
Why can't I hear any of the spiel?
I do the time thing. The thing is going backwards.
Why can't I hear any of the dialogue? Anyway, Train to Busan Peninsula.
A Busan. Waiter, a Busan.
So, Train to Busan, number one, is a really good, fairly low budget South Korean zombie horror film. Very, very cool. Set on a train.
Oh yeah, let me guess.
hold on. Yeah.
Hang on.
Thing with me and you is we're like,
I think I might know where it's going. Go on.
no, go on. All right. The train is going to
Cardiff.
yeah,
Oh, good guess.
yeah, via Newport and Busan.
And Busan's just the stop after Newport.
For some reason, sounds like a French place.
Mm.
But
Language, eh? How funny.
Train to Busan 2 Peninsula was one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life.
Oh no! Why? It went to Busan, Kenny. Busan.
Twice. They took a low budget zombie horror, fairly low budget, and turned it into a CGI mess of bad acting and bad scripting. And silly. It looked like a true B movie and not the good kind, because I do like a B movie.
Yeah, well, you like your favourite B movie is B movie.
Yeah.
Mm.
A movie.
A movie. Haven't seen that one.
So that would be my worst film of the year. The other one.
So Kenny slammed South Korean cinema. South Korean as well, a theme that will return in one of my favourite singles this year. What a tease for later on. Carry on.
I also like that single, I think. My second thought was that Staged was one of the best shows of 2020, when in fact, the second series was shit.
Really? That's a shame, isn't it? Why is that then? Did they just, the premise got boring?
Well, the premise changed entirely. I shall not spoil it. It is learnt about the premise changing in literally the first scene. A show in which David Tennant and Michael Sheen have a kind of Zoom comedy.
Zoom comedy, losers.
But yes, the premise is very, very much flipped on its head, because it's no longer funny.
Yeah. Well, no, that is that is certainly certainly flipped it on its head.
So the first series is very good, but the second series not.
Lots of cameos in the second, I believe. A lot of celebrities now involved. Oh, in both, yeah.
But the second season cameos were, again, just significantly worse. Didn't work, a lot of them. A few of them were good, but didn't work.
Perhaps they rushed the release. Taking advantage of the whole lockdown thing, perhaps. It's not that hard to film, I wouldn't think.
Maybe.
Obviously, it's harder to write than they thought, because they haven't written it very well, by all accounts. So, Busan and Staged, slammed.
But this week, we're going to talk about our favourite albums and singles or songs of the year. And then we're going to finish up with our favourite video games of the year of 2020. And then we'll have a little bit of fun along the way, a couple of things that we haven't mentioned in other podcasts, a couple of anecdotes. But why don't we kick off with maybe the center of this podcast, the thing in which we are most passionate about, and that is music.
War on Terror. Oh.
The steel beams don't melt.
Music.
Orange Man bad.
Busan. We're going to talk about albums, I think, first, shall we? Or would you like to talk about singles? Should we talk albums first?
Albums, yeah.
Well, you lot out there listening, I'm talking to you now, the listeners and the watchers, which sounds like a Stephen King book. Probably is. We recap music a lot. We've recapped, in the midst of recapping the 2000s in our 21st Century Breakdowns, some of this eventually will end up back in the 2020 wrap-up, I would imagine. Kenny there forking some more white meat into his gullet. We're going to refresh a few of our favourite albums. A few of these we might have mentioned before in conversation along the way. Some of them we might have come to later. We're going to just talk about some of our favourite albums in 2020.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick things off, or should I kick things off?
Well,
you've got a few more than me, haven't you?
I've got a few more. 2020 in music was a bit of a weird year. There were no gigs.
It was, yeah.
There were no tours. And a lot of albums got pushed back and then got pushed back again. I mean, I think the Killers album got pushed back 3 times.
Yeah.
And I saw Twitter threads of people who had pre-orders that just didn't know what was going on. They weren't getting back to them. It was quite a negative kind of feeling. There were a number of albums that were released before COVID, a number of tours that managed to take place. I did see my album of 2019 band tour that album. I saw Slipknot in January, who released a phenomenal album last year. But yes, 2020 is a weird one, but there are a number of very good albums released this year.
There were some surprise drops from the likes of Taylor Swift, amongst others.
Yeah, it kind of went from we're not going to release, and then say someone like Eminem who did Music to Be Murdered By surprise drop 1, and then at the end of the year surprise drop the B-sides of that.
I should tell you, for the first time in maybe 10 years, I saw an advert on the TV for an Eminem album. That's right. He had paid for TV spots to rep the album, which I haven't seen. I almost forgot that adverts for albums were a thing. You just don't really see that anymore. Maybe I don't watch enough live TV, but I don't really see that anymore. And it had a full 30 seconds, presumably the part 2, I would think, because this was just before Christmas, advertising the album, which was a nice little nostalgia hit for me, I think, there.
Yeah. Shame the album wasn't a nostalgia hit and rather kept with his more recent trend of being fucking awful.
Well, what he's done is he's sort of subverted the idea, and he's kind of done what Stage did, where it's not good. You know what I mean?
It was good. Subvert, not good.
You just don't get it. You don't get it. You know what I mean?
He's turned into a man who pulled the mirror up at society to say how ugly it is, to himself being ugly and preachy and moany about Orange Man Bad and race, and whereas before he was you expect me to be this disgusting, I'll be even more disgusting because I'm just a reflection of your insidious nature. Now he is in fact insidious. It's terrible.
He sells the mirrors now.
He is a mirror salesman.
Eminem is the Frankie Boyle of hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to do jokes about disabled people, but if you do it, you're scum. I work for the BBC, Busan Corporation.
Music
That's what that stands for.
To be mirrored by.
Nice.
Is my final word on that.
The rise of streaming 2020. Streaming's been rising for ages, but no more than when we've been sitting in all bloody year on your Todd, listening to Spotify, iTunes, blah, 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 blah. Streaming ever more present in society.
Indeed.
Still no money raised for the artists through it. You'd think there'd be something when the people's tours are being cut, new bands, EPs aren't selling, people aren't out on the road, merch isn't being bought. You'd think that perhaps streaming services would step in and give a little bit more back to the artists in lockdown. That's not happened.
No.
What can we say? We're cynical people, but the streaming game has to start changing because it is sucking the life out of music.
Yeah, I mean,
sucking the life out of a career in music.
Without doubt. I mean, it's an established person's game more than ever. Streaming, is so unviable for as a means of making a living. People make their living touring, and when that touring is taken away, people are bands. There's just no end in sight for them, no chance, and that's why. One of my albums, which I will mention later, is particularly important which will be a reason that will come up.
Do we know who was the most streamed
later on.
of 2020? I can't remember. That would have been good information to have. It's someone obvious, not Dua Lipa. It's someone obvious, Swiftie or Bieber. It's someone very obvious, I think.
Bieber had an album. Drake had an album. Dua Lipa.
Let me do some live research for 2 seconds.
Ed Sheeran did not have a new album, although he featured on a Stormzy song, which was one of the most streamed of the year, called with Burna Boy, called "Own It," which was shit.
2020. It's just by month, unfortunately. Why has it done that? Most streamed artist. Bad Bunny. Drake. Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny.
Yeah, I guess. How strange. Puerto Rican. Drake. Juice WRLD. The Weeknd.
Of course.
All the obvious people.
Weekend, yes.
Yeah.
That allows me to move swiftly on to what I will mention as my honourable mentions, which will be, I will skip over. But The Killers, Imploding the Mirage, so many low points on that album. 3 very, very good standout songs though, but overall quite disappointing. I
did listen to the album, love the album artwork. Quite lovely, sort of a watercolory, interesting thing. Did listen to the album. Sonically, sounds good, albeit slightly busy. Very hot on the synths. For me, you stick it on in the background. There's no hits on it. Even the best singles on the album, for me, the best songs on the album, they don't feel like hits. They just feel like the best songs on a weak album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I think we've established by now it's become the Brandon Flowers project as opposed to The Killers.
Yeah.
Some people like that, some people don't. But it's good that they're still releasing music, at least, you know.
Yes, absolutely. After Hours by The Weeknd, a couple of very, very good singles.
Good sound, yeah, throwback but different. Good sound.
Yeah. In a similar vein, Chromatica, Lady Gaga. Again, highlights from the singles, especially the track with Elton John. I thought was very, very good. Although
Never heard of him.
Rain on Me with Ariana Grande is not good.
I hate that song so bad. Rain on me, rain, rain.
Rain on me. I'd rather be dry, but at least I'm alive. Rain on me, rain, rain, rain on me, rain, rain.
You don't get it, Kenny. You don't get it.
It's like Tenet. It's like Tenet.
Yeah, it's the tenet of the music world. You just don't get it.
However, Stupid Love, that single I thought was exceptional and one of my favourite songs of the year.
He always has any Gaga album, always a good couple of songs on there. I wouldn't say she's an album artist. I'd say she's a singles artist. I think this album proves it again. But she's always there. She's always strange, but she's always got a good few hits in the tank. So you know what, mate? Good luck to her. Good luck to her.
Good luck to her, you say. A couple more that I think you might not have, so I'll mention them. Haim's album, Women in Music 3, is okay. Feels like they've lost their drive a little bit. Sounds quite melancholy. Sounds quite just down, lo-fi, undriven. Haim are best when they've got that driven, pushing sound of soft rock, Fleetwood Mac-esque. This is going too far into electronic for my liking. Couple of very, very good singles, but
I do like the one that's sort of almost like a 2-pack backing track. It's very sort of 90s hip hop, kind of California-esque, driving through. You know what? I can't remember the name of the single. Quite like that one. That one's quite cool. But you know what there's not enough of is there's not enough of that on the album. I would have liked a little bit more of that. You know what I mean?
I do like it when they do that.
We are women. I like that one. The one about them being women.
Yeah, I like that one. One that may be on your list, but potentially not. It's a touch heavy for you normally. But it is.
How dare you? How dare you assume that I can't believe what you've just said. I'm stunned. Go on.
It's the self-titled Lamb of God album.
It's a bit heavy, that one, for me.
One of my favourite metal records of the year. Just brilliant. Crushing riffs, groovy, good lyrics, amazing drums, very good. Another great metal album, Code Orange, with underneath the melting of genres into interesting electronica, metal, post-hardcore, death metal. Bit uneven, but quite good. Those are my honourable mentions. Let me pass over.
Well, I'd just like to say rest in peace to what his name was, Alex Laiho from Children of Bodom, who died last week. I think possibly before we the ep, and we didn't mention it because we did do a big run of deaths. Very, very good guitarist. Not a massive Bodom guy. I feel like now I probably do a bit of research. They've been going since like the early 90s, I think.
Yeah, they've been going for ages, haven't they?
I think, are they Finnish as well? Quite yeah, they are. Just having a look at Finnish death metal. Not all of it's as extreme as that, but there's some crushing riffs in there.
Yeah.
Died young, I think 41, the same
41
for other people.
41.
Eek, sad to see in the metal world. I think I saw Herman Lee from Dragon Force do a tribute to him on his
not a big Children of Bodom guy myself either, but I saw a lot of musicians I have a lot of respect for saying that they were heavily influenced by his work. So, sad day.
Very sad day for metal, yeah. So a couple of honourable mentions for me. There's an album called Waiting for Monday by Waiting for Monday. LA-based melodic rock band. Features a guy who was an American Idol contestant. I'm not always into that kind of thing of, oh, now I've got a band kind of thing. I find it a little bit, you might be trying to ride the wave of American Idol. Actually, it doesn't do that at all. It's a lot of members of other kind of rock bands are involved in the project. I think they're signed to Frontiers Records, which is one of my favourite record labels. Just they've got everyone on there that you'd expect, all the classic rock artists from Whitesnake to whoever,
Yeah.
Really interesting album, very melodic, little synth driven. There's kind of a little bit of Van Halen in there, quite blues rocky, vocal tone, really kind of strong and kind of raspy. Sounds like in 20 years he might just lose his voice completely. Hopefully he's looking after it. But really cool. I would recommend a track called Until the Dawn. I think that really pushes along nicely. Really interesting band. I think so, as a debut, about half the album's really good. But I think this is a kind of band that in 2 or 3 albums' time will really establish themselves as like a really solid band. It's sad they couldn't go on the road this year because I think that would have really helped. But
these sorts of bands, they're going to be struggling financially with this year. So, in fact, the American Idol thing might be one of the reasons why they can keep going. So
I can't remember his name. I'll have to look his name up. But no, good band. Waiting for Monday. Another one I got listened to quite recently, actually, that was on, I said before, we've been listening to some lists of albums of the year and indeed Rolling Stone, various compilation albums and lists and NME, things like that. This was on the album of the year list. I believe it was Rolling Stone magazine. It's an album called Private Lives by Low Cut Connie, a band that I've heard of. Low Cut Connie's kind of a guy, but he's also a band at the same time. American band, US rock and roll band. Elton John's a massive fan, talking about Elton John, and the former President Obama is a massive fan. In fact, when he made his end of year playlist, I think possibly last year or the year before, which he did, he had a Low Cut Connie song on there.
Nice.
Really throwback kind of dive bar rock sound, very R&B, bluesy, soul-y. But also it's really interesting album. It's a very long album. It's like 16 or 17 songs, I think. It's very throwback, but it has. I'm pleased that kind of music is still viable.
Yeah.
That it is kind of like a rock and roll album, but at the same time, he does something very. And I can't quite put my finger on it. It might be the subject matter. The track I'd recommend probably sums up the album. It's called "The Fucking You Get for the Fucking You Got," which is just the coolest name for a song ever. It's that kind of sexually driven, dirty dive bar. Just get in and get it done. Sounds like he's got quite a big band, a lot of big kind of almost gospel kind of backing vocals coming in and out. Really interesting. That came up on a list of this year, and actually, subsequently I've checked them out a little bit more, and there's some really interesting things that they do. So really enjoy that. Private Lives, Low Cut Connie.
Nice.
And how many more have I got? I've got 3 more to talk about, including my favourite. So do you want to do another one?
All right, let me bash through, because I've done a top 8.
Yeah.
But I will bash them.
You can bash them.
At number 8 and 7, 2 kind of interchangeable punk albums. Fontaine's DC with A Hero's Death, incredibly dark album from the Dublin-based outfit. Their sophomore effort, annoyingly patchy in places, but a couple of really, really good noise rock kind of punk, post-punk kind of sound. I would recommend probably A Televised Mind, which is just, again, very catchy, very kind of DIY sounding punk. I'm in a post-punk band, but we just sing about the postal system, the postal service. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't get my letter here on time. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's one of them that I've done.
Billy Bragg's also in that.
Yeah, it's very much a collective. Billy's there. Yeah. I wanted to post a postcard to my wife, but she was dead. That's the twist on the song. He was sending a postcard to his dead wife. Very deep. You might not get it.
Of course, he does have that song, The Milkman of Human Kindness, which goes, I'm the milkman of human kindness, I will bring an extra pint. But really, it's, I will bring an extra postcard.
That's the thing. You didn't hear it the first time. It's very deep. Yeah. Post-punk.
The other kind of interchangeable punk album is Idols with Ultra Mono. Very good.
I mean, our close personal friends on Instagram, Idols,
our close
replied to our story.
Bristolian punks that liked our story, Idols.
Yeah.
Ultra Mono. It is a good album that is incredibly corny in places. Some of the lyrics are absolutely just embarrassing.
Don't watch this, boys. We're sorry. Don't watch this, but you're an embarrassment.
They do need to grow out of this shouting kind of left-wing woke Twitter slogans.
Oh, no.
Like just shouting consent for a middle eight. Consent! And there's this in that song, which is called, it's in French.
Oh,
they're two sans moi, which means I think "don't touch me, please" or something. And the grammar is actually incorrect in French. There was a Reddit post about it that was
brilliant. But that's the thing is, mate, they've done that because they're really cool. So, you know what I mean?
It is a good album. It's got great tracks like Mr. Motivator, which has one of my favourite lines of the year on it, which I will try and remember now, which is Conor McGregor with a samurai sword on rollerblades, which I just really like.
Good image. Good image.
Yeah, really good.
Is that named after Mr. Motivator, the 90s British morning show sort of health guru? Do you remember?
Yeah, who I actually saw, funnily enough, on BBC News yesterday.
He's back in the press, and let me tell you, I met Mr. Motivator very briefly in Centre Parks,
Really?
a British holiday camp.
Wonderful.
15 years ago, maybe. And
Right.
he was sitting, eating a corn on the cob.
What more do you want?
So he's not all act. He really does live that motivating lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you see him now doing any kind of aerobics, any kind of exercise, you notice that he cannot move his hips or legs at all. So do not follow any of Mr. Motivator's advice. He's a very ill man.
There was a very funny bit on BBC News yesterday morning. He was on part of their Lockdown Life series, in which he spent half of the interview telling about doing exercise and doing aerobic exercises, and the other half seemingly quite pissed off at the BBC for not having him on more recently.
Yeah, well, he has been gone for about 10 years, so I wonder what he's been doing. Just eating corn on the cob, going to Centre Parks, just chilling out, and just motivating people in his personal life, you know.
Yeah. My sixth, which I will run over quickly, is the new Dizzy Rascal album, E3AF. I'm a massive Dizzy Rascal fan. I think he's one of the best British rappers of all time. Another very good, another solid grime effort from him, verging on kind of pop and hip hop, but very much away from his dark days of releasing pop dance bangers with Calvin Harris, which was regrettable to say the least. However, this is very much a return to form, much like Rasket was a couple of years ago. Just a great album. And my number 6.
My close personal friend, Dizzy Rascal.
Who you worked with, one of his collaborators.
Big time. You know what I mean? Me and him were just a couple of rascals. That's the thing about me and him. Just a couple of boys, so.
I will say 2 more, and then we will move on very quickly. 2
more thoughts from Kenny coming up. The floor is yours, mate.
Number 5 for me is Trivium with What Dead Men Say. It's my personal favourite metal album of the year.
Good riffs on that album. Very good.
Good riffs. Matt Heafy's voice sounds great. Their new drummer sounds great.
He's got his voice back to a good place. He went very hard, and then he went very James Hetfield, and then he was sort of a bit rubbish, and he's sort of brought it back, probably with actual vocal therapy and
very much,
knowing how to look after it. He's brought it back to a nice middle ground, some shouting, some singing, controlled. Because it was a little corny, wasn't it, on things like Anthem and things like that. It was a bit corny, so.
Yeah, very much. He's relearned how to scream, and the screaming has been shared amongst the band. Very good album, probably my favourite metal album of the year. Some quite corny lyrics on it, which is why it doesn't go higher. When I first heard it, I think it was early in the year, and I said this would potentially be my album of the year. However, there are 4 higher. My 4th one, which I will mention very quickly as well, is Biffy Clyro's album Celebration of Endings. It's very heavy, it's quite complex, it's very singable, it's very anthemic, let down by an incredibly weak lead single, Tiny Indoor Fireworks, which was just, when I first heard that, I was not excited for the album. I thought it sounded awful. It was kind of 1975 21 Pilots stadium pop rock, but the rest of the album is bloody good and gets heavy at points as well, which I always like my Biffy Clyro quite heavy.
Kenny likes his Biffy like he likes his women, quite heavy.
And how I like my chicken, quite brown.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Why would
show your chicken again, guys. Just before this went on air, Kenny did drip hot boiling chicken oil onto his laptop. So if this falls apart at any point, let's blame King Henry VIII over there in Nottingham.
I will leave it there because my top 3 are very much a step above the rest.
Okay. Do you want to do 1 for 1 now, or do you want me to just do my 3?
Yeah, we'll do 1 for 1, yeah.
1 for 1. Just wanted to let everyone know that when post-pandemic, my band Buffy Clyro will be touring. We are Buffy the Vampire / Biffy tribute band. So we dress up as Buffy characters, do Biffy arrangements, but rewrite the lyrics as the storytelling from the beginning to the end of the Buffy saga. The show is probably 6 or 7 hours long. Do bring a picnic if we're playing outside because it's a long gig. Okay.
Oh, it sounds really good.
Just keep an eye on us for that. My 3rd from top is an album called, and I came to this album maybe a week ago. I know what you're thinking. Whoa, prick! Don't be like that. This is an album called Burn by Foxy Shazam. Mentioned them before. Band I've seen Support the Darkness in 2011-ish. Then they kind of split up a little bit after that. 5 or 6 years, weren't really doing anything. There were some issues between the members. The singer, Eric, has guested on a few songs. He guested on that Downtown song by that band I can't remember. Downtown! Can't Can't remember. The ones that did lots of those parody kind of hip hop songs. Can't remember the name. He's guested on a few records. People would recognise him. Really unique band. Uniquely different in their appearance, like their songwriting style. I would say the album crosses the borders between like rock, pop. There's also some big band kind of arrangements on there, some horns and things, which is nice. They're sort of like, if you remember the band Sparks, who did This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us, they're kind of like a Sparks Darkness melding. I've mentioned songs of theirs that I've liked. Count Me Out's a really good song. I Like It's a really good song. They're very tongue-in-cheek. There's some amusing lyrics. This album, surprise release, didn't know it was coming. They did a teaser that it was coming out. Oh, we've got back together. Whoa, here comes the album. Really interesting album. Some really cool songs on there. Like I said, crosses the borders between different styles. Very hooky. Sung really well. Sometimes he's very dramatic. It's almost theatrical in the way that he sings sometimes. I would recommend a track called Dreamer. Would probably be the one I recommend. There's like little skits on the album. There's a particular one where it's a kind of a meandering ballad that ends with I hope you trip and fall in dog shit. That's the kind of feel of the album. Don't take it too seriously, but at the same time, behind the veneer of silliness, there is actually a really good like hard rock band, you know. So really interesting band. So I'd recommend that.
Nice.
Burn by Foxy Shazam.
Very good. So I mentioned that my top 3 are a cut above the rest, in my opinion. My top 2 are a cut above this. However, this is, for me, the best pop album I've heard since 24K Magic by Bruno Mars.
Wow, big words.
Which personally I think is the one of the best pop albums I've ever heard. As is this. It is Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. It is an exceptionally good album of what sounds like a top 10, if not number 1 single, one after another, after another, after another. This album is a throwback to a funk disco era. It is an evolution of Dua Lipa, which I don't think many people expected. Her earlier stuff, such as One Kiss with Calvin Harris and things like that, they're nowhere near this level. Don't Start Now, which is kind of a Daft Punk, Fleetwood Mac-esque pop anthem with a bass line which is catchy and danceable and all over the neck.
It's all over the neck.
It's all over the bloody neck, which is how I like it. Don't Start Now, yeah. So Future Nostalgia, which is the title track, brilliant. Physical, brilliant. Levitating, brilliant. Hallucinate. Good in Bed, Boys Will Be Boys. Levitating, featuring Da Baby, which we mentioned earlier. Did we mention Da Baby? Yes, this is, as I said, I went into the year thinking Lady Gaga was maybe going to come with the best pop album of the year. Turns out, Kylie came with her album Disco, which was very disappointing, I thought. But yeah, this is it's exceptional. It's start.
Can you just read that list of things that you like, the songs that you liked again, but just pretend that it's Kenny's strengths on his CV? So just read those songs that you liked again. So that's Kenny's strengths. I really feel like I've got Future Nostalgia. Yeah, Future Nostalgia. I'm looking forward, but I also respect the past.
Yeah. A bit like what Sid Vicious said in his interview to us a few years ago. Thing about retro, man, is it's like the past, but it's also the future. Like Future Nostalgia.
Levitating. That's one of your.
I'm physical. I can levitate. I can hallucinate. I also, Boys Will Be Boys.
Boys will be boys. Come on.
I am good in bed, so
that's it. So some of Kenny's strengths there on his CV. He is available for bar mitzvahs. Anything else you'd like to say about Dua Lipa? I like Dua Lipa. The only thing is, I feel her voice isn't always as unique as it could be.
I agree.
Like she sounds like a lot of people, or do a lot of people sound like her? Answers on a postcard.
I think that this album is... the reason I like it as much as I do is perhaps not even to do with Dua Lipa. It's the composition. Which is so just perfect, danceable, anthemic pop in my mind.
Yeah, it's harmless, it's easy, it's hooky, it's well arranged, it's clean. It's singable,
and it's like an earworm. It's when I compare it to 24K Magic, which is on the level, I think, of like a Michael Jackson. Bruno Mars is just such an exceptional talent. Dua Lipa is not near that level of talent. But this album is it's just perfect. It's perfect pop. It's one of the best pop albums I've heard in years.
5 stars from Kenny. Perfect pop. Well, I'm going to come in with something a little different. An album that I've mentioned before on the pod, and that I mentioned their first album, I think, back when we were doing our sort of what music have we listened to this week kind of shtick, when we could actually see each other physically. Oh, the memories. I miss you. I miss your smell. The
Quite
album
chickeny at the moment. Quite chickeny.
Even the chicken. I'll have some of that.
Go on. Sorry, I'll cut you off.
Black Sleep. Put your hat on, you. Black Sleep by We Sell the Dead. It's heavy metal with a gothic twist. Told you about it. Their first album was a concept album about Jack the Ripper. That's what you're getting into. Everything I love. Members of In Flames, Him, Firewind. A lot of big bands that I like. A lot of big bands, metalcore bands, melodic metal bands, gothic and Him. Firewind being kind of a Greek power metal band. All of them mixed together. Whoa! It's like a concept album about death. This particular album. They love their concept albums. Everything you love about sort of Sabbath, the darkness, the riffs of Sabbath, the kind of otherworldly, this could be taking place in like a haunted mansion type scenario. That kind of driven hard rock from like Foreigner or Whitesnake, just straight down the line, balls to the wall. And kind of Dio, the more expressive, theatrical kind of side as well. I would say it's all of those mixed together. I wouldn't say like it's like the best of all of those, but it's a pretty damn good album could cut maybe 2 tracks, gets a little samey towards the end. But then it kind of brings it back up, this kind of choir-y, gospel-y thing. I would recommend basically the whole album, actually. But like the title track, Black Sleep, has like a real driving riff, a lot of good melody. You can sing along to the songs. It's got everything which I think a kind of contemporary metal album should have, which is it's not heavy enough to put kind of mainstream just fans of songs or rock. It wouldn't put them off. It does have that kind of grit and that bluesiness. Very good riffs. Each song sounds different, like I said, apart from maybe 1 or 2 at the end. Interesting arrangements. They're not afraid to, use strings or use synths or use other vocalists. And the story, the thread that runs throughout is very interesting. Really interesting band. I think again another band a bit like Waiting for Monday that in another album's time or something could have an absolute corker on their hands. I think this album was got like 4 or 5 stars across the board that I saw. So this album did very, very well critically as well. Again, a band that one of my metal bands that I suggest that people go, I've never even heard of them, but then you actually look into them and they're actually very well respected. I would say it's another one of those bands that I think, well, they'll never quite be on the level of a Sabbath or anything crazy like that, but they're doing something different, and that's what I like to hear in 2020/2021. So I'd recommend Black Sleep, the single from Black Sleep by We Sell the Dead.
Lovely. So we've got your number 1 left.
1 left for me, yeah.
And I've got 2 left. So a little story about my top 2 then. They have interchanged 3 times so far. I have currently picked the winner about an hour before recording, and the way in which I had to pick the winner is I went through each track. I gave them a score out of 10. I aggregated that across the score of the album if every track was worth 10, and then I created a percentage out of that full number, even that because one has 11 tracks and one has 9 tracks. For me, they're incredibly different albums, but they are equally as brilliant. And this these 2 are again. It seems like it's turned out to be such an important year for music because perhaps it's been an important year for the world. It's been an important year for politics. It's been an important year for everyone. My number 2, interchangeable with number 1, is Run the Jewels 4.
Obviously.
Obviously. When I first reviewed this album on the pod, I gushed over it in a previous
You
episode.
gushed on it.
I gushed on
sometimes.
it, in
Yeah.
it,
Around it.
pulled out on it instead.
Chicken juice all over it.
Chicken juice. I can't say enough about this album. It is one of my favorite, most powerful albums I've heard come out of hip hop since maybe To Pimp a Butterfly from Kendrick Lamar. It's I aggregated it as 87 out of 110, and I was quite stringent. That's a 79%. My album of the year only got to 84, so very, very close. Let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia. So Run the Jewels is a duo, LP and Killer Mike together, released in September. That was released in June. So the killing of George Floyd happened very, very close to this. And it's a very political album.
Never heard of it.
And it was released for free 2 weeks before it was due to come out, I think, with Killer Mike saying that this album is free to anybody who needs it at this time.
Wanker. Carry on.
What a fucking wanker.
Do you say it in French or something? Prick.
Bouchon! It has features from 2 Chainz, Pharrell, Josh Holt.
Is that 2 Chainz, formerly 3 Chainz?
Oh,
He
yeah.
did lose a chain.
Lost a chain.
Yeah, when he started, he was 1 chain, but he gained a chain. Just like through respect, you gain chains.
Here's another chain. I
Have
respect.
another chain. But he maxed out at 2. He didn't want 3. He said, "No, I'm going to stick on 2." Is that that one?
That's the very same.
Good. Got you.
And they're very, very frequent collaborators, Zach De La Rocca of Rage Against the Machine fame. Let me go down to see what accolades did it end up at. Billboard's 3rd best album of rap album of 2020. Any other big publications? 18th on The Guardian. NME's top 50 best albums of 2020. Number 1 at NME.
Wow.
Number 3 at Paste. Rolling Stone's number 6 album of the year. Up Rock's number 13. Variety's number 1 album of the year. It's
Well respected.
It's an absolute tour de force of modern political commentary done through the incredibly intelligent and thoughtful feelings of LP and Killer Mike. It's an emotional listen. It kind of really gets you. It gets to you. It gets under your skin, and it sort of doesn't leave you. When I first heard it, I really sat down. I really listened to it, and it's insanely high level of songwriting and composition and things like that. For me, a few words for the Firing Squad is my song of the year. It sums up 2020 as this kind of boiling pot of frustration in the world, of anger, which then just creates this track which has some amazing lyrics about race struggle, class struggle, and it's an exceptional album, and I think will go down as an important album and one of the most powerful albums from a year of struggle.
Well, I didn't like it. My number 1 is oh, I wish I didn't laugh then. My number 1 is that's going to be the trailer for sure. My number 1 is completely different to that. It's vacuous, it's empty, it's surface level, it's everything I've ever wanted to write, and it's already been written. It's A Christmas Carol by Majestica. It's a Swedish power metal Christmas album, Kenny. It's everything I've ever loved about music in one album. Is it the best album of the year? Of course it isn't. But for me, it's the album I've enjoyed the most of the year. It's a concept album based on a little story called A Christmas Carol. Have you heard of it? I think it's a Muppets original, not sure.
Muppets original, yeah.
Symphonic power metal retelling of A Christmas Carol. It's everything I ever wanted to write. I'd recommend it all. Really like the track Ghost of Marley, but there's a good few other tracks on it that are enjoyable. Majestica, a band that have renamed themselves. They were called like Rheinseed or something before they did that ABBA metal album. In fact, they did a few ABBA metal albums.
It's this band.
Got some tribute, got some play. They renamed themselves. They've come back as Majestica. They had a debut album called Above the Sky, which was good. A few songs on it that were good, but they sometimes stray into being a little cliche power metal, which is we're going to fight the dragons on the mountain, and that's okay. But I prefer something a little different. Amazing voice, the whole band, but they can sing with amazing vocals. They dropped the single in like November, I think, or even earlier, like as a real early tease for like, by the way, we've got a Christmas album coming out. There's elements of like Danny Elfman there and John Williams, very orchestral, very well arranged. And then you've got the classic kind of grounded power metal, like, Twilight Force or all those kind of bands like that, which are very much, it's like having King Arthur in a band. You know what you're getting with that. They can all really play. What I think makes it really cool is that during the album, there's plenty of well-known Christmas songs inside the 9 tracks. Only a 9-track album within the actual body of work. So, they are all original songs, but the verse might be the melody of God Rest You Merry Gentlemen or et cetera, or Oh Christmas Tree, whatever, So there's very tongue-in-cheek. They're utilising carols, other famous Christmas songs. They're rewriting them, they're changing them around, and they're putting them within this massive body of work. It's a little kind of Trans-Siberian orchestra, it's the metal orchestral pairing, which is something that I've always loved. Some people find it a little cliche, but I think this album really does it right. There's so many characters, they're all playing different characters. The music really, I would say, fits the story. The story, one of the greatest stories ever told, very dramatic. So I think it really lends itself to kind of this kind of metal reinvention. Sounds very Christmassy, a lot of jingle bells, a lot of things like you would expect from a traditional Christmas song. It's just silliness and it's fun and it's Christmassy. I've added a few to my classic Christmas playlist, of course. I think I added 3. It's just everything I've ever wanted to write. There might have been other metal Christmas albums. I think there's been a few, but not in this way. It's everything. It's a silly dream. I think Tommy, the lead singer, just had the idea, like, wouldn't it be funny to do a metal Christmas album? And they did it, and it sold really well. It's our first album in a long time. I've just bought the album outright. I don't tend to do that much. Epic, symphonic, singable, familiar, but different. Good fun. I think you should listen to it next Christmas. Might be a bit of a strange listen now because it's post-Christmas. I would recommend the song Ghost of Marley as kind of a nice entry point. Just pure Christmas joy. And that's what I wanted this year, was to just try and enjoy Christmas as best we could after a crazy year. Yeah. And I think for me, this album was basically made for me. It's everything I like. So
it is.
Thank you, Majestica, A Christmas Carol. Get it on next year. You'll enjoy it.
Very much. Jack. It's Christmas. It's symphonic metal. It's been fused. It's comedy as well. Yeah. It's tongue in cheek. It's funny. It's made for you, my friend.
There's some silly videos they did as well. 3 or 4, I think maybe even 2 or 3 singles that they released separate videos for, and that is even more silly when you see the videos alongside it. So yeah, very enjoyable.
Nice.
So Christmas Carol, Majestica. Hundreds of years later, after Charles Dickens wrote it, who would have thought that it would be reinvented in the Swedish symphonic power metal way? But I say that's what it's meant. Charles knew, really, when he wrote it. He thought, this is good, but I think it needs to be elevated by something like that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I like it.
Thank you, Charles Dickens. R.I.P. Yeah.
Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah. Good luck to you. Yeah.
Peace out. Yeah.
Okay, so we have reached my number one, which is the final number one, and therefore the best number one.
Oh yeah. That's how it works. Yeah.
It's another album connected to COVID and the events of 2020, I should say. Yeah, Run the Jewels being the kind of
Political COVID, fucking wanker.
only in the sense of the name, which is The New Abnormal, and it is the album by The Strokes. Now, what have I said? I've said Dua Lipa is one of the best pop albums I've heard since 24K Magic. Run the Jewels is one of the most impactful hip-hop albums I've heard since Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. Well, I'm going to say another big thing. It's the best Strokes album. It's the best ever Strokes album.
Wow.
It's really weird. It's very singable. It's very grown up. There's lots of maturity, especially in Julian Casablancas' voice. It's haunting and experienced voice. And again, it's such a good album. It's my favorite indie album. I was going through NME's best album of the years, but because they're kind of big indie publication in the UK. It's probably my favorite indie album since Arctic Monkeys released AM. It's heavily influenced by 80s pop rock and kind of an 80s sort of throwback, but also it has quite a lot of 70s influences, including almost a heavily Pink Floyd influenced song in particular, from The Wall. Track list is only nine songs, and anyone who's listened to this podcast before knows we like short, concise albums. None of this 16, 18 track albums. Standout tracks: Eternal Summer, which is the track which kind of sounds like it's a Pink Floyd-esque throwback. At the Door, which has this beautiful lyric of use me like an oar, strike me like a chord. And then when it says strike me like a chord, the synth rises within the melody and it goes strike me like a ba, and it's this big emotional kind of chorus. It's not particularly political in any way. It's written mainly about Julian Casablancas' divorce to his wife.
Oh wow!
It's and it's a very melancholic, sad, depressive album, which has a kind of a melody which makes you feel it's uplifting. It's almost kind of that Smiths-esque way of writing music, that you write kind of very clean, very beautiful melodies and underpin it with very sort of dark and meaningful lyrics about loss and love and things like that. Again, a couple of things about it. It was NME's 4th album of the year. Lost LA Times 8th album of the year. And it's pending a Grammy for Best Rock Album of 2020. It's very, very much a Marmite album. I was chatting to a friend about this, friend of the podcast, Mr. Sean Birmingham, who sent me a Pitchfork review that gave it 4 out of 10 and said it was over bloated rubbish. But no, for me, my favorite album of this year, and indie deliciousness.
Wow. I'm going to briefly mention a couple I didn't like. The Strokes no, that's fine. I didn't like Human 2 Nature by Nightwish, band that I've championed a few times. Maybe one good track, the first single, Noise. Coming off of a run of, I would say, 4 classic symphonic metal albums from 3 different vocalists. They have, I'm afraid, wallowed in their self-indulgence for the last time. There's whole sections of just talking.
Oh,
There's the orchestration is always good. They always do it in Abbey Road, so you can hear it's got a classness. But even that's not inspired. It's folk. The guy who joined maybe 5 or 6 years ago, a guy called Troy, plays a lot of horns and bagpipes and this and that. Very folky musician. He's got his little folk prong in, and he's made it all rubbishy. And Troy, he's British as well. That's annoying. Like, he's made it all weird and not good. I just don't do that. And they all sound the same, and they're all long. And some people might hear it and think, oh, it just sounds like Nightwish, but there's always a good song behind what, as bloated as Nightwish songs are, there's the song in the middle is like a catchy pop song, but this doesn't have that anymore. It's just bloated. So see ya. I was super disappointed by Strange Days by the Struts, an album that I didn't realise came out until a few weeks prior to this recording.
It's an album.
Stop doing features with Robbie Williams. What are you doing?
Yeah. I've not listened to that album. I similarly did not realise it had come out. And it's one of the ones that I was meaning to listen to for this episode, forgot about it. But of the tracks I heard, really disappointing.
I mean, first one would be my favourite albums of all time, their first album. Second one, I thought about half of it was good. The other half I found a little too commercial for me. Getting Kesha on things, don't do it. We don't need you to do it. Just be a good rock band with pop sensibilities. You can do it all. You've got it all. You've seen them live. They've got the full package. They've toured a lot. They're home. The writing's good. You don't need to do these features. It's desperate. Whoever's managing them, I mean, what do I know? They're doing well. You don't have to push the stadium rock thing down people's throats. The music speaks for itself. It's commercialized. They've phoned it in. It's boring. It's super slick, too slick for a live band, in my opinion. There's fan pleasers in there. It's not, I'm not offended by the album. There's nothing that gets you out of your chair. It's just boring and samey. There's one that sounds a bit status quo-y. That's okay. There's probably 2 or 3 that's like, they're fine. But for a band that was like, oh, what a debut, and that I'd heard about them years before touring, and they'd been playing London a lot, and there's a lot of footage of them, and they were really building up, and then they got signed, and then the album came out, and I was like, oh wow, the album's really good. And the second album was like, it's good. It's really, they're moving up, and it's more poppy. Yeah. And the third album's like, even all the reviews are like, it's fine, but we're bored, and you don't want to be at that position on a third album where people are bored. I think they need to take a step back, reassess their management, reassess where they're actually going. You don't need Robbie Williams on your first single from your album. What on earth are you doing?
It was so weird. They're a weird band, I think, because Luke Spiller, who's the vocalist, is literally one of the most eye-catching performers I've ever seen. Like you said, I saw them live last year, and he had the room in the palm of his hand. And it wasn't a big venue. It was about 2,500, 3,000. But, they've been on tour with the Foo Fighters. They supported the Foos. And I think that they've had a weird career trajectory because they're very big in America and never broke through in the UK. And I've heard interviews of Luke saying he doesn't really understand why the UK is like UK radio, whatever pushes music these days. It's not radio. I don't know what it is. But they're not being pushed, and this was not the way to go about it. Like,
it just seems desperate, mate. And I just, it's a shame because I really liked them.
Yeah, their first 2 albums, especially, like you said, it's too slick. The second album was also, in my opinion, getting a couple of the tracks too commercial, too slick, too that like plasticky rock.
Yes, it's just overly produced. Like this guy is like Jagger / Freddie Mercury. Yeah, he doesn't maybe have the pipes of say Freddie, but like he's got it all. Yeah, and I've got a terrible feeling that they might take him and split the band and just push him, which I think without the band, I'm just not sure he can carry it. I don't know. Maybe he can. Yeah. Either way, it's too slick. Sort it out, boys. I'll have a word with them. I'll say, come on, Luke. Don't.
Come on.
But my number one album I really didn't like, an album that we both hated, was Father of All, Green Day. It came out quite early in the year, didn't it? A band that we love. I mean, we love this band, influenced us. We've mentioned it many times. I wouldn't be a musician without American Idiot. It's repetitive, it's easy, it's recycled garbage. Thank God it's only half an hour. There's one or two songs. The first single's probably the best song on it. It's fine, but why on earth release this? It's like a jam session that you've released. I just don't understand it.
Everything is awful about it. The album artwork is one of the worst album artworks I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's a... Can I get this any bigger? No. It's a vomiting unicorn vomiting a rainbow.
Yeah, that just about sums up the album, really, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's absolute garbage, and I agree. I mean, there's songs like "I Was a Teenager," "Junkies on High."
I don't understand the point of the album. This is the thing. What's it trying to say? I guess so. It doesn't have to say anything, but like, what is it saying? I think it's just like screw you.
There's a song called "Oh Yeah."
Yeah.
My favourite track on the album is "Stab You in the Heart." It's the only track I like. And it's basically a rockabilly throwback.
Yeah.
I hated that album. I was so disappointed.
So disappointing. Mate, we haven't even done singles yet. We're on an hour. Whoa! You know what? I haven't got a lot to say about singles, so I think we'll finish this time, but we'll just
don't have too much. Yeah.
Bullet point a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to say some of your favourite songs?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are from the albums, but there are...
Oh, yes, you've already said your main favourite, haven't you? Yeah, maybe just do a list, mate.
There's Kingslayer featuring... oh, my God, what's their name? Bring Me the Horizon, and the girls from... the Japanese girls who were in
Baby Metal.
Yes, featuring Baby Metal, Kingslayer. Quite fun, kind of metal drum and bass song.
Baby Metal. I've championed them before. You know, they're not an album band, but they're just a great hybrid of strangeness that actually is really catchy. If metal can be commercialized in that way, with still retaining some of its gusto, then I think that's cool. So.
And that EP was called Post-Human Survival Horror. It was all right. A couple of tracks on it were all right. It wasn't very long. Harry Styles, Watermelon Sugar was okay. Watermelon Sugar was quite good. WAP was quite good.
Of course, he wears dresses now, so you know what I mean?
Yeah. I Think Therefore I Am by Billie Eilish. Really like that.
Yeah, of course.
Roddy Ricch had a track called The Box. Don't know who Roddy Ricch is, but I quite like the song. So
Roddy Ricch, he's just a good guy. He comes around a lot. He's got a lot of money.
There is a track from Pofu called Deathbed, Coffee for Your Head, which was massive and sounds like Plain White Tees. The lyrics are fucking awful. I wish the general public would raise what they expect from music, because this is shit. Other than that, my favourite tracks of the year that weren't on the albums we've mentioned were Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, Take What You Want featuring Ozzy Osbourne from Post Malone.
I say that Ozzy Osbourne guy, he's got a big career ahead of him.
I Think Therefore I Am, and probably annoyingly the best pop song of the year was Tootsie Slide by Drake.
Drake. He's always there, isn't he, with his...
It's a really, really catchy, such a catchy song. That's my singles. But yeah, as I said, A Few Words from the Firing Squad is my favourite song of the year. It wasn't released as a single, I don't think. Single, who fucking knows? Oh, Tootsie Slide, why not? No, fuck it, WAP. Fucking Wet Ass Pussy, why not?
Believe it.
I'm out of here.
He's going to stick his head up a chicken's ass. I've only got 5 that I've listed because that's all I could find during my research. I'm sure there's loads more. The main ones that I enjoyed, a couple weren't singles. They were just lyric videos. But whatever you say about that, there's the whole singles debate now. You know, some albums is all singles released. So, again, I think he's got a bit bored.
I really need the
throwing
toilet.
his hat around. So is a lyric video technically a single? No, but I don't know. When the whole album's released on streaming services, everything's a single. I enjoyed the song "The Death of Me" by Harem Scarum, a terrible name for a band, from the album Change the World, a Canadian band I've come to in the last sort of 18 months. Canadian hard rock, underrated guitarist as well, and very, very good voice. Big chorus, great guitarist and vocal duo. It's just a catchy song. The album, 4 or 5 tracks on it I really like. I've gone back, they've got like 16 albums. I've gone through every one of them, and you know what? About half of every one of them is actually pretty damn good. So they just never got to where they needed to get to, which is a shame because they're a perfect pop / rock combination. So I'm not sure what happened there. They were like big in Japan. It's one of those bands that they just did really well in a singular market and then pushed everything into that. And then when they weren't popular anymore, they weren't popular. They were Frontiers Records though, who also represent Waiting for Monday. So they're still doing well.
Yeah.
For The Death of Me, Harem Scarum. Not a single, but a lyric video. I'll Never Leave You by Alan / Olsen. Another metal pairing of who does Russell Allen sing for? Possibly Symphony X. From Worlds Apart. Another metal banger. Nice vocal, chugging riffs. I would argue that this is the kind of single that Nightwish should have put out, but they didn't. And I think this, Annette Olsen used to sing for Nightwish. So I would say this year, the single, she's overtaken her previous band. Lyrics aren't great, so you can go ahead and watch the lyric video on YouTube, but I think it's got a nice big kind of catchy chorus. A song called Invictus by Serenity, another metal band that I'll champion, from an album called The Last Night. Another underrated band. They very nearly appeared in one of my 21st Century Breakdown lists for like it must have been 2005 or 6. A song called Reduced to Nothingness. It's got a really good drum intro. Heard of them on like a compilation. They're from Austria. So I don't just like people from Scandinavia, also from Austria. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Also Austria.
So Austrian metal, you know what I mean? Really kind of high, kind of almost theatre vocal. Some lovely kind of halftime kind of riffing, huge intro chorus. Starts the song, which makes you feel like you're going to kind of ride into battle. It would make a great alarm. Just really funny. It's just like, whoa, I'm awake. Let's go. Really nice. They always do a good riff, Serenity, and again they tour all the time. I think they had to crowdfund something to do their album, which is like, oh, but you're represented by a label. Why are you crowdfunding? So I think they're having some issues with, as a lot of bands are, with finance, which is a shame because they're a very good band. But I enjoyed that single nonetheless, or that song, Invictus by Serenity. An actual single that I would say is my official single release favourite. Do you want me to do that? I will.
Yeah.
It's La Di Da by Everglow.
Okay.
You might not know it. You might know it. It's from an EP that has a million different letters and numbers in the title. The EP is called -77.82x /78.29. I wouldn't say it's the catchiest name for an EP. Really, really cool band. They're from South Korea, hence our reference earlier.
Okay.
I would say this is a group that are on the cusp of breaking big. You've heard it here first. They've already had an album. Then this is off a 4-track EP, which came out this year. If you just type in Everglow, La Di Da, as in LADIDA, it's all over Spotify. The EP did make a few albums of the year lists, although technically it's not an album. So I'm not just plucking it out of obscurity. I think they're on the cusp of world domination. You know, it's got this little mixy, Dua Lipa synth pop thing. Then it goes into kind of a weird trap thing. A big part of K-pop is the melding of genres.
Yeah.
And this is something that this definitely does. A little different to other people, like maybe a BTS, that you know, people may reference them as a similar type of thing. A little different. It still is a collective. I think there's 6 or 7 of them in the group. Six of them. They all look like models, like what you expect from that kind of genre. But I think they possibly are from a reality TV show. I think to basically make the ultimate K-pop group, and basically they've done it. I think it's a really, really catchy song. So listen, absorb, and I think in a couple of years, even in a year, they could really be like big.
Right.
Especially as Little Mix and bands like that are slowly dying out because people are leaving and things like that. So the K-pop / J-pop, I think thing has really been in the last few years. So I think it's good. It's a good time for female empowerment, all the whole thing. So really like that. La Di Da by Everglow, cool name as well.
Yeah.
And then my favourite, that it wasn't a single but it was a lyric video, was a song, another band that I came across this year, although I knew of them for many years, Fleet Foxes. The single the song I'm Not My Season, from Shore. Now that I listened to Shore, the whole album, didn't like the album. I found it really boring.
I thought it was, I listened to it thinking it was going to be, I was like, oh, here's a list of stuff I need to listen to for this episode. Listen to it. Didn't think much of it.
Boring. I don't know what to tell you. It's almost a solo project, this, because they were in lockdown, so it's basically like one or two guys wrote this. That was it. But the actual song, I'm Not My Season, I think it's a beautiful song. It's poetical. It meanders. The melody and lyrics flows along like a stream. It's got some of like a Paul Simon kind of softness to it. Yeah. Certainly when it goes into, like, say, the chorus, that kind of folk intimacy that Fleet Foxes have always had. I think it's an absolute joy of a single. The whole album, which appeared on almost all best album lists this year, I think is an absolute waste of time. But that song, for me, absolute standout. Came up on a playlist first, and then I subsequently heard the album. Yeah. I'm Not My Season. I think it's a lovely, could be a Simon & Garfunkel song. It's a song that's completely out of time, and I wouldn't really expect it to be released this year.
Yeah.
Really nice, and the lyrics are lovely as well. They do very interesting, surreal kind of lyrics that are tread the line between poetry and kind of storytelling almost. So nice to see the lyrics as well in the video. But yeah, really like I'm Not My Season. But the album can do one.
Yeah, I thought the album was really poorly recorded. I could barely hear. It sounds like everything has been put through a kind of plug-in which adds the highest amount of delay possible and reverb and delay possible. I will recheck out that track. Yeah. As I like Fleet Foxes. Yeah, especially their earliest
early album, White Winter Hymnal. I put on my Christmas playlist. Love that song. Always love that song. So yeah, don't know, man. Don't know what happened there. I think it's lockdown affected the just about everything to do with the album. I think so.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So that is our music done. It went longer than expected, as usual. We are going to cover video games, but video games are, well, it's been a weird year. Movies, TVs, music. We've been able to pick out big projects, big plus points. Some of our favorite albums, maybe for a long time, but with games, it's been very, very weird. Very weird year. I have got a list here of the major releases, which I will run through very quickly. So there's Neo 2, Doom Eternal. There was the Resi 3 remake, the Final Fantasy 4 remake. My number one, which I won't mention, Fall Guys, the Tony Hawk's remake, Crash Bandicoot 4. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed that these are all mainly just either remakes or bringing back of things like Crash Bandicoot, Streets of Rage 4, or just remakes. Assassin's Creed Valhalla was released, Watch Dogs Legion was released, Call of Duty Cold War, Demon Souls, and then we had the disgrace to the industry that was Cyberpunk 2077. There was also Animal Crossing, which if you play that, grow up, and Mario Brothers 3D All-Stars. A weird year. And why don't you tell everyone a little thing about your year in 2020 games?
Well, coming to research this, I realised rather quickly I've not played one game released in 2020. It hasn't happened, baby. I don't know why. It just hasn't happened. I've been replaying things. I haven't had a lot of time because of work and other things to buy new games. I also don't tend to buy new games for financial reasons. I like to wait until they're maybe a little cheaper. and then I waited good 12 months for that. So, and then of course when the new Xbox and PS5 were announced, I thought, okay, do I not do that? Do I get them? We spoke about that before. Maybe going to wait till they're a bit cheaper. So I figured, well, maybe I'll just wait and get them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just hasn't happened. I've replayed a lot of games. We've spoken about that before. I'm a massive, probably a little bit more of a fan of a replay than Kenny is. You know, you'll replay some of your favourites, but I think you tend to sell or get rid of ones and trade them in and stuff.
Yeah.
I've replayed Witcher 3, talking to Cyberpunk, which I still think stands up with all the DLC. It just looks beautiful. Like we said, some of the win mechanics and things, and side missions, I just think have yet to be replicated in an open world game of that size. I think the detail and the time that they took, ironically, the time they took over making that game. Yeah. I replayed the first Red Dead Redemption, which obviously was backwards compatible. I will expect them to do a rehash or a rebuild on it in the next couple of years, probably for a new console. I would imagine they'll package the two together, which probably would mean that we'll play it again. But obviously love Red Dead 2, one of the best games ever made. Red Dead 1, still fantastic game. Still holds up, I would say, for sure. Much shorter than I remembered it being, probably compared to the vastness of, say, Red Dead 2. But really just such good fun. Amazing score. I'd probably actually prefer the music in that to the second one, perhaps. There's a great YouTube video of how they did some of the music, some of the old instruments and things that I would recommend. If you just type in Red Dead music, you'll be able to find it. Really interesting, short documentary, 10, 15 minutes. Just a really great fun game. Quite eerie in places as well, which I forgot about. Going into the hills and, cannibals and all that kind of stuff. Replayed Alien Isolation, a game that I think you played before me and I started playing when we were in London together. Hadn't played it with Danielle, so that was good fun.
What a game.
Really good on the big TV. Scary, tense, repetitive. It falls into the trap of it being the same thing for the whole game, but you know what you're getting with it. Don't get killed by the alien or the synths. Fun, looks great, scary, really good use of sound. I think it would be even more of an experience to play it with, say, a Kinect or some kind of 3D, 4D or headset capabilities. I think would be absolutely terrifying. Just great fun. We played a lot of the Assassin's Creed games, trying to lead up to getting Valhalla. Just finished Black Flag. We like about that. Good fun, if a little repetitive, but I think the boat mechanic added something a little bit different to the series. Just started Unity, which I know had a lot of glitches. There is a patch for it, which I downloaded, which might have fixed some of them. So far, holds up better than I remember it holding up. Actually, the streets and the kind of claustrophobic nature of the game, actually, and I think that the first hour of Unity is a really captivating start to a game because you're in the Palace of Versailles and it actually looks really good, and it really looks good in its facial features, which Ubisoft are not really that good at. So far it's holding up better than I remembered it. I don't like the time jumps in that game. It's like a year later. I don't like that. Just tell it, be linear. But so far so good. We'll be playing Valhalla at some point. Still haven't finished Odyssey because that game is shit. And doing all of that and living my life means that I've not had time for any 2020 games.
Yeah.
Woe is me.
Well, the thing is, I being an Xbox owner, what would you have played this year? There's not been many.
We've said before, Xbox gets the bad end of the deal in terms of unique games only for that console. Exclusives, not really a thing. Halo, I just don't care about it anymore. It was fun for all the 5 minutes. Gears, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, it's all fine, but I did get Game Pass on and off throughout the year.
Yeah,
I do have a list of games I'd still like to play from that, but every time I get it, I might download one thing, play it over Christmas, and then delete it straight away. I enjoyed Sniper Elite 4. I know it's out a few years ago. It wasn't from this year, but I downloaded that off Game Pass. You've played Sniper Elite. It's good fun. It's repetitive. I'm kind of looking forward to Hitman 3. I think that'll be interesting. It'll be more of the same.
Yeah, soon.
There's a map on Dartmoor or somewhere really in the middle of Dorset or Devon. I think so, which I'm really intrigued about playing, like a British map.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting with Hitman. It's the same. It's been the same game for 4 years, but it's fun. It's fun. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
But yeah, no new games really, mate, for me. I've let the team down.
Well, for me personally, I played Doom Eternal and thought it was very good, but I'm just not there now in terms of playing Doom. I need something a little bit more story wise. Time is of the essence when it comes to games now. And just wasn't for me. Resi 3 remake, I was so excited for, and it got panned. It was only 6 hours long. I still haven't bothered playing it, despite the fact it's been on sale for £16. I'm still not prepared to pay that.
Wow.
I will play it. Final Fantasy VII Remake was...
I forgot you did this, yeah. So I've never played a Final Fantasy, so...
It was weird, man. It's so weird. Japanese stuff's really weird.
We just want to say we love Japanese stuff, we love Japanese wrestling and bands, but Japanese stuff is weird as well.
It was too weird for me. I didn't play the original. I don't really love that kind of turn-based RPG, which is why I didn't play it back in the day. Now it's much more free-form RPG, but it just wasn't for me. Streets of Rage 4 was fun and is actually my third favourite game of the year. I love Streets of Rage. Tony Hawk's remake didn't pay. Not prepared to pay that for a remake of a game I played 15 years ago. I'm
feeling you'd get that game, you'd play it for 40 minutes and go, yeah, no, it's fun, yeah.
It was fun.
Just play something else now.
It was fun when I played Tony Hawk's 2 when I was 14.
That's it.
I am going to get it, but yeah. Call of Duty Cold War, I've not played the campaign. The multiplayer is fine. Cyberpunk, I refuse to buy and is tainted completely in my eyes. We'll probably talk about that in a later episode because, the Cyberpunk issues continue. There are 2 games I haven't mentioned which were perhaps vying for Game of the Year. Ghost of Tsushima it was so good, but it got boring after.
Really?
I mean,
Kenny posted quite a few lovely pictures, screen grabs of the game, which looked amazing.
The graphics are exceptional, but I finished. There's 3 islands. And I finished the first island, and I think maybe I just overdid it. I did too many side quests. And my character was specced, and I had it on the second hardest difficulty. The hardest was just too much for me. Second hardest difficulty, and I was just slaying everyone. It was too easy. It was too repetitive. The story was great. I want to go back to it, but it just got old for me. The mechanics weren't quite fleshed out enough.
Really?
Have it as a game that's like 60, 70 hours long. It was maybe just too long. Perhaps it was just too long. But the time I had with it, I absolutely loved. My game of the year, regrettably, and perhaps, in a weird way, it's a game that I hate and a game that I wish had never been made, but it is The Last of Us 2.
Yeah, well, we were spoiler free on that. I knew a lot more about it going in. It's a beloved game of Kenny's, and I've never played it, and unfortunately I know everything about it because life. I didn't want to spoil it, but there was some things in play that I thought would upset you. Yeah. You still said you enjoyed it nonetheless.
It's my game of the year. It's gameplay wise, it's one of the best games I've ever played. It's so brilliant and visceral. The violence is so over the top, but it's just such a depressing game. It's so depressing. It's like seeing Mickey Mouse be raped and tortured. It's like something that, The Last of Us is my favorite game of all time, and the story is so perfect and so insular. It's so minuscule in the grand scheme of the outbreak of the cordyceps virus. It's just about a man, basically his redemption to losing his daughter and becoming a shell of himself, to accepting the call for help from another young woman who was the same, similar age to his daughter, and the love that he grows for her, and then eventually the love that he can't let go for her. which is the Last of Us is in of itself a perfect story, and The Last of Us 2 is just, it's just upsetting for the sake of it. The story is, I mean, I get what they were going for, but it's just all your heroes just being broken down and abused and tortured, and it was horrific. It was a horrific game to play, but the gameplay was exceptional. It was fantastic. It is my game of the year, and at the same time, I despise it and wish it was never made.
Incidentally, if anyone does want to hear my new single, Mickey Mouse Getting Raped and Tortured, that is coming out. It's part of the post-punk project that I'm working on.
Post-punk, yeah.
So just keep an eye on the social media for that. Yes, there was a little agenda in play, I suppose, as well, in terms of its commentary on various issues, which some people didn't like.
Yeah.
Controversial year for gaming, let's say. Not that I know, because I didn't fucking play any.
I didn't fucking play any. Yeah, well, controversial.
What do I know, eh? As we come to the end of our episodes, I think perhaps we'll end with maybe, what we've enjoyed personally throughout the year. I mean, I do have a few highlights musically. Would be listening to Rolling Stones' 500 Greatest Albums. I feel like my conclusion is love Beatles more, hate Dylan and Stones more. Enemies, 500 Greatest Albums, as expected, it's indie. Yeah. I've delved more into the music, the current music. The lists of 2020. Yeah. Have discovered Fleet Foxes again. Have discovered Low Cut Connie. Have discovered Everglow. So I think that more than ever, when I've had time to sit down, especially towards the earlier part of the year, during the initial lockdown, it's been nice to be able to delve into music a little bit deeper, current music, because I tend to go back and do things that I've already done, as we've explained during the gaming section. Yeah. So I think musically, it's been nice to do that.
Nice.
Still happy where I am in the flat, enjoying my time here with Danielle. I'm happy how the podcast is going. We got some cool replies, some cool likes this year. Stone Cold Steve Austin replied to a tweet of mine earlier, which we spoke about. Yeah. We've had wrestlers like Finn Balor liking some of our stuff, idols, of course. So it might seem a bit vacuous to say, oh, we like likes and things, but you know how it is. It's nice when your peers or people you respect take time out of their day to look at your content. So yeah, I think for the podcast, we've learned a lot visually, content-wise. We've realised that we can do a lot in a lot of time, which an hour and a half into this episode, I think, is no more apparent. So it's been a strange year, hasn't it? But we've made it to the end. Yeah. And it's been all right. We've learned a lot. We've enjoyed some stuff, and that's the main thing. Any highlights for you at all?
I would say, yeah, I kind of took 2020 in a similar way that you did music. I kind of did film. I had a lot of fun during 2020 watching the classics. I watched 12 Angry Men this year. I watched Taxi Driver for the first time. I watched
a taxi driver drive into 12 Angry Men on the street.
Really?
That was hideous. That was hideous.
I watched what other classic films did I watch this year?
We can find some of them pinned to our favourites, pinned to our
a lot of them
page.
We're on the Instagram. I went through a Vietnam binge this year. I watched Good Morning Vietnam. I watched Apocalypse Now. I watched the first Rambo. And yeah, I went back and watched more classic films that maybe, I can't believe you haven't seen this. I got rid of some of those off my back, especially early De Niro. I watched Serpico, which was really good, early Al Pacino film. I watched Psycho for the first time all the way through this year. Yes, just classic films that I ticked off the list, things that you should all watch before you die, maybe. I got rid of some of those. And then, this year, what did I do? I got a new job towards the end of the year, thankfully. I'm still where I am in Nottingham. I'm still, trying to live a life where my family are away, my best friends are away, Jack is away, won't put him in with the best friends, just
Colleague.
I'm away from my colleagues. It's been a weird year. But if I was going to say there's anything that I hope the world takes away from 2020 is that we must cherish the arts. We have to cherish the creatives in our society. We have to protect their income, because when you're sat at home for 4 months in a lockdown, they're the people that get you through it. The artists, the actors, the musicians, the podcasters.
Artists are essential workers.
I agree.
And now I'm going to end with an anecdote I didn't tell, and I'm going to blast through it, and then we're going to say goodbye. I searched for Danielle's birthday for Disney old school 80s Mickey Vans.
Nice.
They're pink, they're turquoise, they're checkered. They were going to be for our original Disney trip. It never happened, so I thought, no, I'll get them on her birthday over the summer, and we'll just have them for whenever we go to Disney. I find a website after 2 weeks of looking. I'm eBaying. I'm looking everywhere. I can't find them anywhere. They're US only. They were limited edition. I find a website. They're available. I look. They're available in the right size. I order them. It's PayPal only. There's an issue with the payment page. I've got PayPal. That's not a problem. Some businesses are PayPal only. It's okay. I make the purchase. I grow suspicious.
Oh.
Looking at the PayPal, it's the business name, but when it gives you the receipt thing, it goes to one man. Legit site. A site that you can buy it. They'll go to freelance sellers. It goes to them. They check the shoe, the trainer, the boot. They send it to you. I Google. I see bad reviews, baby.
Oh, no.
It's a scam. You won't get anything from this company. I went, oh, no. I messaged the seller directly, maybe 20 minutes after my purchase. I demand an immediate refund. You scammer, I know your sort. Let's call it quits. I don't want them after all. Can you just send me my money back? I've Googled you. I'm not happy with it. Let's not progress any further. Quite a long, but concise, but straight to the point. The message sends. He messages back a few days later. Have patience, sir. Your order will arrive. Please expect it within so-and-so days. Now, I looked and I thought, the days he's given is longer than the time that I'm legally allowed to claim against him.
Oh, no, right.
So I can't open the case past the days that he said. So I'm thinking, well, he's going to say, wait 10 days. I won't get them, but I'm not allowed to open a claim against him then. So I went, I don't think so. I open up the query with PayPal. I said, what's the issue? I said, I don't believe I'm ever going to get these. I put message board links, website links into this is what people have said about this company. So I'm not convinced I'm going to get. You probably shouldn't host fraudulent businesses on your website. I gave quite the spiel. I'm not going to receive this order. I send the links. Kenny, after 2 weeks, I win my claim. The claim is won. I get my refund.
Right.
Which was substantial. It was shy of, £100.
Oh.
I get it. I'm happy. 2 months later, I get a message at work from Danielle. Jack, you have a parcel that's arrived. It's from China. Okay. I go home. I look. Yes, this has come from China during the coronavirus pandemic.
Nice.
I make sure I wash my hands now. I opened the parcel. I opened it, Not Danielle. I opened it. Could be anything. Could be a shit in a box. I don't know. Because this guy has my details. He's got my address, mate. He's got everything. I don't know. He might send the Yakuza around to kill me. I don't know what's going on. I open the parcel, Kenny. It's the vans. They're in the parcel. They've sent them.
What?
I think I've ruined a Chinese man's business at Christmas. I think I might have put him out of business during a pandemic. They sent the vans.
Are they legit?
I think they're legit. I think they are legit, yeah. I spoke to a couple of people who know a little bit about shoes. You know quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
It has the sort of the double bottom layer that a Vans has, where it goes one direction and the other.
Yeah.
At the very least, they're basic Vans that maybe they've printed on, but they are Vans. You know, if they're fake, they're very good fakes. I mean, almost, you know, some people go around with fake watches forever, you know.
Yeah.
If they're real, they're real. As much as I know is that they are the Vans that I ordered. Happy New Year to that man in China.
So
I got some free Vans.
So you contacted him and said, you know what? I apologize. I will come out publicly on my podcast and support your business, and I will transfer you the money for any issues caused. In fact, I will pay a standard credit card APR amount from my original payment, and here is my £124. Good day to you, sir. Merry Christmas, Hare Krishna.
If you want to listen to Rock and Roll Up, we're on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher. We're contactable via email. We have an email. That's right. You can get hold of us and ask us to do things if you want. We're also on social media, aren't we, Kenny?
We're on social media where you could, report any loss of earnings via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Rock and Roll Up Podcast on most of those, apart from Twitter, which is Rock Roll Up Pod. Tweet us a picture of your Vans, and we'll try and figure out if Jack's Vans from China are real.
Yeah, we don't know. Yes.
But you got some Vans, and you kept your money. Scumbag.
Absolute pig of a man. Yes, you can shoot an email on rockandrolluppodcast@gmail.com. You can support us on Patreon. Just search Rock and Roll Up Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, all the usual things, as long as you're not attacking me for my underhanded sales tactics. I think we'll be all right. So just don't give my address out to anyone that looks suspicious. That's all I'm going to say. Also, I've learnt to defend myself over the last 6 months with a machete. So I'm pretty much, you know what I mean?
You were expecting the Yakuza, and in the end, you got a pair of very nice Disney
Very nice shoes that I wanted, albeit 2 months later. So I think I should have got the refund anyway because they were late. Yeah. Jack wins in the new year.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. See you later.
Thank you. What were your favourite songs from 2020? What were your favourite albums? What were your favourite games? Let us know, and we will be back with regular scheduled content coming to you soon.
For now, look after yourselves, stay safe, and don't scam people out of money from other countries. Peace out.
Big time.